way. So I'd like to share a little bit of my personal experience of what God has done in here for me. Like some of you, not all of you, I grew up in a pastor's home. That's a glass house. We all know what that is. The expectations sometimes aren't realistic, but it helps us to understand that if we don't do it a certain way, there's consequences for it. I happen to not be the oldest in my family. The oldest is my sister. She's 6 years older. My brother is 3 years older, and I have a younger sister that somehow came along 12 years later. What I noticed about my dad and mom, who raised us in a Christian way, and moved to Bridgeton here in 1965, actually, about the time my oldest sister was getting married. I noticed that when there was problems in school, that they often looked for alternative education, as Pastor Alex was talking about. And in those days, all of our colleges, Houghton, Wheaton, all of those schools had academies. And so they immediately would, if there was a problem in school, I noticed my oldest sister got sent to an academy. She was about in ninth grade. Made sense to me. That academy happened to be in Allentown. She meets her husband there. He becomes a missionary. They go to the mission field. What a wonderful segue. My oldest brother and I, we moved here, and Bridgeton is one of those cities that you get in a fight at least once a week when you're here in the high school. And so they noticed that he was in a lot more fights than I was, because I watched what he did and didn't do it. And so they sent him off to an academy down in Kernersville, North Carolina, one of our other college academies. He grows up and he marries another pastor's wife. They enter the ministry. There's some more to that story, but I'm very proud to have him playing the trombone by my side on a weekly basis in our orchestra. I come along, and I haven't really broken any of those kind of laws that you break in the house. And even though Bridgeton was a tough school to go through, I liked it. I got involved with the right kind of people, hung around the right kind of individuals, did the right things. And so they didn't send me away to any kind of a Christian school like my siblings were. So I was a new specimen. I, however, did get married. And I began my career right here in Bridgeton, working for Stetson. And the Lord called us together as a couple into ministry. So I returned to our Bible college at that time, which was in Allentown. And I then took, after school, I took my first church in a South Jersey community called Carney's Point. I was there for 10 years. My wife and I, at that time, had 3 children. We both had careers. We got rid of our home, got rid of our careers, packed everything up in suitcases and said, God's called us, we're going this direction. Now, when we got here, my wife had a very strong conviction about Christian school. I did not. I didn't go to a Christian school. My brother, my sister did. I didn't. And so she felt so strong about it that she must have shared it with some of the lay people in our congregation. Because one of the lay persons went directly to the principal of a nearby Christian school and said, it's not right that my pastor can't have his children in a Christian school. That in turn brought the principal to my office. And as he came into my office, he said, would you like to have your children in a Christian school? I said, my wife would like to have our children in a Christian school. And I think it's always good to agree. But we just moved here. I think the pay was $75. I think I worked on the side teaching school. And he said, well, this is how we're going to do it. You start your children in the next week because school starts, and you just pay me what you can afford. Well, that sounded pretty good to a Pennsylvania Dutchman moving to South Jersey saying, hey, that's a pretty good deal. My wife's conviction is answered, prayer is answered, I can send my children to a Christian school. I will say to you, it was the best investment I made in their lives. I know that our family had daily devotions. I know we went to church. I know our children were involved in ministry just as the house I grew up in. There is absolutely no substitute for doing that. And I know I could be a Christian in a public school. I know all those things. Salt and light is what affects our communities. If you take it all out, we're in trouble, is what we're saying. But I can say to this day, as I think of my oldest son, Doug, I would not have been able to survive the transition of COVID without the technology support he can provide me. And in the church he attended, he was often filling the pulpit. I think he missed his call. He's a better preacher than me, but he serves the Lord, and I like that. My second oldest son, after graduated, went to the military. Not the choice I would make. I made this mistake by leaving him alone with a recruiter, went downstairs, and my wife said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "He's an adult." This is Pennsylvania Dutch. "He's an adult, he makes his own decisions." He did. 21 years later, he's in the military. He is now serving as a spiritual leader on the last church I served in Allentown, PA. I seem to leave a child at every church I went to. Our youngest daughter, the same thing. She is now serving in a very large Southern Baptist church out in Indiana on staff, female on staff. She's breaking a little glass for them. But it's amazing to me how God honored their faith. And I like it. And I said that when I was invited to be on the board here. I came in 2010, and the previous pastor had a lot of connections with the school, and it opened a door for me, and they've invited me. I said, I thoroughly believe in Christian education. I know the investments it's made in our home. I wouldn't transition it. How did it get in the budget? What Alex is talking about, $5,000. Back then I can't remember what it was. I can tell you how it got in the budget. My wife felt so strong that she took a job outside the home. And that was in our budget, including college, until that somehow God said to me, "Doug, if this is important, you just leave this in your budget until they are gone." And it worked. And I know it's the best investment we've made. I'm preaching to the choir. You have your own story. I'm just telling you, I am proud today to have children that love the Lord, serve in their roles, all of them in spiritual leadership roles. I'm very proud of that. And I give the effort and the credit to Christian School. Thank you.
Thank you.